And good afternoon. Good afternoon again. Apologies for the late start. My name again is Beaumont Todd. I am the Training and Communications Manager here at the Department of Inland Revenue. And today is the continued series that we're having for the entire month of April on VAT education. Today, we're continuing the second part of yesterday's module, which is the VAT registration process, which will be our module 2 process. So right before we get into it, I just want to open with a quick word of prayer and then we'll do some housekeeping matters. Heavenly Father, I thank you for your grace and mercy. I thank you for those that are tuning in, oh God. I thank you for those, oh God, that are in the room. I pray, God, that you continuously bless and cover them. Let the information that is shared, oh God, be shared diligently, oh God, in a manner that is well received. I pray that you guide us, that the technology works without any issues by your grace. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Okay, so for today's session, we are continuing from yesterday. So we're just going to do a recap of some of the things that we discussed yesterday. And then at the very end of the session, we are going to do a demo where we do a live demo going through the process of signing up for VAT from both ways, from the business license aspect of it, as well as going directly from our vat.revenue.gov.bs. And I didn't look at the pop-up banner for this, so I feel proud of me today. Okay, so just a couple of things for persons who may be joining us for the first time. First thing is, all of the lessons are broken down into about 7 to 8 different modules. Today's module is the VAT registration process. Our first module was just looking a little bit at the introduction and the history of VAT. The sessions will usually take for each module anywhere from about 1 to 2 days, 3 days the max, depending on how in depth the information is, but usually it should not be any more than 2 days. In addition to that, each of the modules will have a quiz at the very end when it's done. If you are interested in getting a certificate, you are not required to do the quizzes, but if you're interested in getting a certificate at the end of the process, you have to do all of the quizzes and get at least a 70% rating up on the quizzes in order to qualify for the certificate. Each session, and once we finish a module, we will send to all of the participants and the persons that are reviewing the link for the PDF that shows all of the notes for both of the modules, as well as the YouTube links for the modules, because we want you to have this information and to share this information. I cannot stress enough. We invite you to invite persons to come and be a part of it. There is no cost to the training, whether you're in session or you're on YouTube. We want persons to have this information at the end of the day. We will be going through each of the sessions because we're not trying to rush through the information, which is why it's broken down into 8 to 7 modules, because we want to take our time to properly explain each of the different aspects of that and demystify this as much as possible. We ask if you have any questions, please drop them inside of the chat or even ask online. And we remind persons at the end of the day, even if we're not able to answer the questions right away, then we'll make sure if you provide us your email that you can get back to us. So I'll also say to you, our email that you want to send to us is dir_comms, COMMS at bahamas.gov.bs with any of your queries and any of your questions, and we'll be sure to get the answers back to you in a timely and a speedily manner. So, looking at today's objectives for Module 2, we're continuing looking at identify who is required to register for VAT, to differentiate between the types of registration, to navigate the online registration process using our OTAS, to list the required documents, recognize common mistakes, and understand post-registration responsibilities. It is about 1:44. So we are probably going to take a quick break, say about 2:20 after we finish the first session, and we'll end the session going over the demo aspect of the training. So for those that may have just been joining us, a quick recap. So just a reminder to persons, if you are over the $100,000 limit in terms of your gross turnover, it is not your net, it is your gross. In terms of your gross turnover, you are required to register for VAT. That is mandatory. Now, I just want to go over this because we try to remind persons of this as much as possible and to explain this as we go through. First of all, you are not paying VAT on your business license. A lot of persons think it's their business license. It is your TIN, which is your tax identification. So, say for example, you had 5 different businesses. Each of those businesses were making $20,000. A lot of times, persons say, "Well, this business is only making 20,000. This one only making 5,000. This one may only be making 500." It is not the individual businesses, but it's the grouping of businesses that fall under a particular TIN. So, say you are sole proprietor. Use Granny, and I like use this. Granny selling hair products, shoe products, teeth products, denture products. She's selling everything you could think of under the sun. Out of all of Granny's businesses, all of them together may add up to 99,999.99. And Granny have one little business, a little candle business. She only make $1 on that candle business. But that dollar pushes the threshold of all of the businesses over the 100,000. Since Granny is a sole proprietor, that means then all of the businesses that fall under her sole proprietor for that particular tin have to now register for VAT and charge VAT. Now, let's say Granny decide to get along with Auntie Sue. Granny and Auntie Sue decide to put a business together, so that becomes a partnership, which means then that is now an additional tin because it's a different entity. Granny and Auntie Sue only making one little $20,000. So because that particular tin isn't over the threshold, they won't have to pay VAT on that tin. But Granny's sole proprietor, where she's being foreman in Boston, she will have to pay VAT on that, and she will have to make sure that she's registered for that as long as that goes over 100,000. Again, you are considered in business if you engage in any type of regular activities that involve supplying goods or services for payment. It may seem like we go over certain these things repetitiously, pardon me. That's the Exoma and the Lucha. I don't know which one of the islands come with this. At the end of the day, to make sure that we want you to get this information, and we want persons to understand this. Some entities must register, regardless of the threshold. That's government entities, auctioneers, and promoters of public entertainment. Voluntary registration, of course, is allowed for businesses below the threshold. And then tin only registration is for non-VAT entities like charities or embassies who still need to interact with the tax system. So let's look at real quick the type of registration. My digital media person give me the side eye because he tell me use PDS, but I like to see my little transitions. They give me life. So types of registration. First of all, like I mentioned before, the mandatory registration, as long as you go over the 100,000, you are automatically required to register for VAT. And you have 14 days after you go over the threshold to register for VAT. So we encourage persons, if you see that you're actually approaching the threshold, to make sure at the end of the day that you are able to definitely start the process. If you see that you see in your second or your third quarter that you look like you're going to go over the threshold, it's better for you to just start the process to register so that you don't have to be rushing after the fact if you actually go over. Then we have persons that can voluntarily register for VAT, which means if you are actually below the threshold, as a small business or a startup, it gives you the opportunity and the benefit to register where you can actually claim VAT inputs, which is any of the expenses that you have for your business. So if you're a startup and you're just starting off, your outputs may be less than your inputs, which means you're still in a position for any of the purchases and stuff that you make from other VAT registrants to possibly claim a refund if your inputs are more than your outputs, or in other words, if your expenses outweigh your sales. Then, of course, the one that I don't like, which is the forced registration. Unfortunately, if you do go over the limit and you're found to be over the limit, the comptroller has the right to forcefully register you as a VAT person. But then the other aspect of it is you're also going to receive fines for going over the limit and not registering willingly. Then we have TIN only registration, which is for some entities that may need a tax identity for refunds or compliance purposes, but they cannot charge VAT. And then we have a special group, which is VAT grouping. Now, for the VAT grouping, it means you must, first of all, be approved by the controller that permits a group of related entities. Say, for example, Domino's. And Domino's has a bunch of different franchises. So instead of them having to file VAT for store East Street South, Harbor Bay, the one out Coral Harbor, what they do then is each of those stores have to register for VAT individually, but then as a group, instead of them having to file each individually. They do one group filing, which covers all of the different businesses. And there are some restrictions that require you to be able to register for this. So let's look at the two types of filing registration. You have the standard filing registration, which is basically used by most businesses. As long as you are over 400,000 your revenue, you have to use the standard filing. Now, the standard filing gives you the rate of 10% on most of your goods and sales. And now, additionally, you also have the 5% on any non prepared food items that are consumed by human beings. Let me say it again: non prepared food items consumed by human beings. Cat food, dog food, bird food, snail food, or whatever other thing that is not eaten by humans cannot count. And if you happen to eat those, God bless your soul, they still don't count. And that also does not include alcohol. Now, businesses can charge, of course, once they registered VAT on sales, which is their output, and claim VAT on expenses, which is their input. And it is net VAT that is paid to the government. So, example, say your business output is more than your input. Your output is $8,000, and your input for your expenses is only about $6,000. The difference is $2,000, which means 10% of that, which is 200, would go to the government. Now, say it's reversed. Say instead your output or your sales is only $6,000 and your input, however, is $8,000. That means instead the difference again is $2,000. And what is instead remitted to the government is you are in a position to claim an input and a refund of $200. Of course, we encourage persons to make sure that they require doing their bookkeeping in a proper and decent manner and they're filing on their monthly and quarterly basis. And most VAT registered businesses follow the standard filing method. The next method, of course, is the flat rate scheme. Now, there are certain requirements for this, one of them being the business has to be making a gross turnover of less than $400,000. And of course, then the flat rate would be a 6.5% rate. With this, however, you are not able to claim any type of inputs. You still would charge whatever services at 10%, but when you go to do your filing, you only do the 6.5% on your gross turnover, and that is basically what you would turn into the government. The rest would remain with you. However, you cannot claim any input. So I would encourage persons to decide which one works best for them in this regard. We also spoke about yesterday the registering process, and we'll get into this, actually go a little bit deeper into this today. Whereas we created an OTS account, we logged in, registered for the VAT, filled out the application with the business details, uploaded the supporting documents, and submitted and tracked. I just want to remind persons there are two ways that you can actually register for VAT. One is going directly to inlandrevenue.finance.gov.bs, and the other one is going to bat.revenue.gov.bs. Okay. So when you start the process, the first thing you want to make sure is that you have all of the right documentation that you need. So you want to gather the right documentation to start off with. First of all, it is a government issued ID. I cannot stress this enough, a government issued ID. It cannot be your school ID. It can't be your Kiwanis ID. It can't be your Toastmasters ID. It can't be your ID that you had from your school when you was inside primary school. It has to be a government issued ID. If you show up with anything less, we will turn you away. Next is your business license, proof of address, and if you're a home-based business, it would be possibly a bill or something else. Or if you're a commercial business, a lease agreement, your financial projections if you're a new business, if you're not a new business, and then your bank account information. So let's go through each of these real quick. So government issued ID. First of all, the government issued ID must be valid and clearly legible. Say that again. It must be valid. It cannot be an expired ID that's been expired, whether it's 1 day, couple hours, you cannot use an expired ID. It must be up to date, it must be valid. Accepted forms would be your passport, your national insurance board card. And this is just an example. Don't come for me. I noticed the old passport But at the end of the day, it's still a sample just to see. We want it to be clear where you can see both the signature as well as the information inside of the passport. Please let me know at any point if I'm going fast or too quickly at any point. Next would be your business license. First of all, the business license must be approved and current. We know that the filing period for the business license is between January 1st to January 31st, but the business license is still, I would say, acceptable until March 31st. However, if you get the most updated, in this instance, 2025, we would encourage you to please utilize that for what you're actually doing. And of course, your business license must show the name, the TIN, license number, and the type of business that you're actually doing. So using this as an example, again, don't come for me for the fact that the data on it is outdated. This is just a sample. The idea is to make sure at the end of the day that the information that you need is clearly displayed, the business name, the TIN, your license number, and of course, the type of business that you're at. In addition to this, you'd want your proof of address, which can be a utility bill if you're a home-based business, or your lease or rental agreement, or your conveyance if it's a property that you actually own, and then your property tax bill. And if, say, for example, you're doing a business for a government, you don't actually have a business, but you're renting something for the government or to the government, whereas you would be a tin only business owner, then an official government correspondence or letter verifying that as well. Any questions so far? Not trying to go too quickly.
Yes. So in regards to e-commerce business where there's no physical location, what do you have a section where they would need to fill that out, like a online business per
You
se?
don't have a physical location, but when you signed up for the business was a what? Home-based business. I'm saying in that instance that you signed up for it, you had to decide whether it's going to be a home base
Hmm.
or it would actually be a commercial based business.
Hmm.
So even if it's an e-commerce business, where you're operating from would be the address that you actually
Okay.
utilize.
So at home or where?
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think you want to use your web address because space spacedocs.com is kind of hard to find your way there. But yeah, so basically, when you are registering for your business, and when we go through the process of the business license, because I'm going to go through that as well to show, you have to decide whether or not it's a home based or a commercial business. So, whatever address that you utilize, that also determines it. It doesn't matter that it's an e based business at the end of it. Okay. Financial projections for new businesses, which would be used to justify their voluntary registration or evaluate their VAT liability. And this will include estimated sales and income, expected expenses, and sales forecasts over a month. If you've already been in business and you've already made income, then most likely they would ask you for invoices or copies of your invoice to verify. And of course, your bank details, which is needed for VAT refunds or payments, which include your bank name, your branch, your account number, and your account must be in the business, legal, and trade name. Let me say this again. You cannot utilize your personal account when you're registering for VAT. It has to be a business account with the business name that you're utilizing for trade and for business. I know we sometimes have a habit of using our personal accounts, but when you have to register for VAT, it has to be a business account in order for them to pay the funds to the business because they're paying to the tin, not to the individual. And the tin's name would actually be registered in the actual trading as or the company's name, not the actual individual. Other information Required to identify persons responsible for VAT must include the name, the contact, the nationality, position, and the ID. Now, let me just say this again. In this instance, for partnerships, you need to include all of the information for all of the partners, all of their nationality and positions. Can't be anybody trying to hide because of this. It has to be disclosed and their ID number, depending on whichever government ID that they have. And the same thing goes for limited companies with the directors and who all the directors are. All of this information has to be disclosed because we need to have a record of who is responsible for the VAT compliance and making sure at the end of the day that the company is compliant. Like I said, when we were doing the initial, it isn't one partner or the other. The partnership is held jointly for all of the partners. If it's a sole proprietor, it's held only for that individual. If it's a limited company, it's everybody that is a director and up. Now, that was a question. Yes.
For the business license, and you go to make an account at the bank, they asking you for the business license.
Yes. Yes. Your
But
question is related that this is only, yes. What we're doing is just going through the process of registering. So the question was if this is only relating to VAT. So yes, this is pertaining strictly for the VAT registration aspect of process because we still need that same, in a lot of ways, the same information that the bank may ask you for is going to be similar to the information we ask because we need to also have the KYC to be able to verify and know who our clients are and who is actually registered on these businesses. Because if, however, for whatever reason, that the person becomes uncompliant, then we need to know who we are to go after to make sure that we can collect the government's tax. I got portables I got to fix too. I keep going. Okay, so we're just going to skip past this. So let's look at some common errors and stuff to avoid. Our Lord, my son, we got you running back and forth with this mic. Good job. Good job. Okay. So first of all, incorrect business activity code. I mentioned this the other day. So our OTS system uses something similar to the international standard classification. And this means that, like I mentioned, if you happen to have a marketing consultancy business, you cannot, when you're registering, use the same code for a financial institute. You cannot use the same code for a family office. You can't use the same information for a school because schools, first of all, cannot register for VAT for tuition. So if you're a marketing consultancy business and you happen to do a family office, that means then you possibly will be charged anywhere from $7,500 to possibly $75,000. So you need to make sure that you're putting in the correct registration code when you're actually registering the business for VAT. The next is mismatch business name or address. So first of all, we encourage persons to make sure check, 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 check again. Make sure and verify your information from the trade name process to when you're putting in your trade name to when your name is being put on your business license, even when you're doing your bank account, even when you're dealing with persons that may give you a VAT receipt. Make sure that the information that they register for you is correct. Because if you get a business license or trade name that's incorrect, and then the banking information doesn't match up, and then when you have to file for your VAT, that also has errors. What you're creating for yourself is a disaster where none of your information is lined up. So we encourage persons to make sure that the business name, the address, and the information is correct and verified. That's why I said check, check, check again. Human error occurs. So we want to make sure at the end of the day that your information is right. And this goes from your business license when you're registering for VAT, as well as even when you're putting in the information for your bank account to make sure that this information is correct. Because, however, incidents happen whereas you may make your VAT payment and the bank puts it in the wrong instance, or you put the wrong banking information. So you want to make sure that your information is correct at all times. Uploading incomplete or wrong files or fuzzy images. So you want to make sure that any image that you upload is clear and it can easily be seen, and the information on it can easily be seen. With a lot of these smartphones and scanners, it's easy to scan documents. So we encourage persons to make sure that you are scanning the information and that the information that you need is not missing anything and everything is actually correct. And at the same time, that you're not uploading the incorrect document for what you need. You cannot upload your NIB or your business NIB. You can't upload your business license or something else that needs to be your passport. So you need to make sure, even in what you're uploading, that the information and the documents are also correct. The next one is using your personal TIN instead of your business TIN. Pardon me. We encourage you to make sure that you do not mix up your NIB or your personal NIB with your business NIB or your business TIN number. In the same way, if you're asked to register your business TIN, to make sure that you're registering your business TIN and not your business license number, because there's a difference. Like I said, when you're paying VAT, you're not paying VAT on the business license, you're paying VAT on the actual TIN. This one is for those who may have a representative at the end of the day that may be filing VAT on their behalf or doing business on their behalf, to make sure that the person, of course, has all of the correct information. This will be one of those persons at the end of the day that may just have a TIN only number, say, example, an accountant or somebody else that may be doing business on your behalf. Excuse me. And you want to make sure that they have their TIN themselves. If they don't have a TIN, they cannot act as a representative on your behalf. They also have to have a TIN in order for them to be listed in the system, as well as for them to be authorized. And in addition to that, you have to make sure that when you're signing up and your account is being created, that this person is also added so that they can actually be authorized to operate on your behalf. If not, they cannot file any VAT or any of those things for you. So, any questions so far before I go to our post registration response?
Okay, my question is, for my personal company, it's in my name. So I need a separate PIN, or I just use the business PIN to file?
You're trading as yourself as a sole proprietor,
Yeah.
then your business is already inside your name. But it's that when you open up, you're asking that in regards to opening up a business account or when you're registering for VAT. No, I'm asking. Is that what you're asking? When you're asking about it being in your name for when you're registering for VAT?
Current business that
Mhm.
I've had for 10 years.
And it's in your name.
It's in my and my husband's name.
Well, that's the name that you're trading the business at.
Yeah.
Sometimes persons will use their name as their trading as.
It's the trading name. They give you the trading act.
Yes.
So whenever we file, whenever I go into the system and I sign on, it comes up. Everything comes up and everything is under there. So I just click on the different options that I want to do. Filing for,
You're talking about your user sign in
yeah.
versus the VAT registration.
When I sign in and my user registration,
Uh-huh.
everything comes up for the business.
That's fine. So when we get to the walkthrough to see how the account's set up, that's fine. I was just making sure you're not asking about the actual using the name instead of the business to register for the VAT registration. The account OTAS registration, because we'll go through the walkthrough for that. The name that you use for that is not necessarily what you're going to put in the information pertaining to the VAT filing, meaning you're using your business information for the VAT registration, not necessarily the same name for when you're actually opening the OTAS account. Because with that, remember now, that enables you to have multiple different TINs. So if you open it in your name, that's your username and your password. And like I said, we'll get to it and go through it. You can have a TIN for your sole proprietorship, TIN for your partnership, a TIN for 1, 2, 3, however many limited companies. It's like I say, just a 5 million, 10 million plus room inside here. Yes.
But since it's a company, I don't have to do any of that.
If you only have one company,
yeah.
then yes. If you only have one business, then you would only have that one
One
business
business.
attached to the TIN.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
I understand.
So again, then let me just repeat for anybody that may be listening online. The question was asked about registration if you only have one business and one tin. So then it is just the one business that would be under that one tin. Any other questions? No? Okay. So post registration, anything online? Okay. So post registration responsibilities. So once again, once you've already gone through the process and you've been registered for VAT, you are required to display your wonderful certificate of registration. I want to make note that if you notice to the bottom of the registration, there is a QR code on the registration, which enables all of our wonderful compliance officers to scan and validate that the certificate is legit. The sad truth is, not everybody is actually honest. But if our compliance officers do come in, happen to see a VAT certificate up, and they scan it and it doesn't have the appropriate and correct information, then you will be found inside violation. So we are encouraging persons to go through the process, the proper process to register, get your correct VAT certificate. Please don't make up your business license. Please don't make up at the end of the day your VAT certificate. Jail hot all year round. So I just want persons to understand. And we're going to talk about some of the fines and penalties. And prison time is actually one of those at the end of the day for certain actions that you take. But we want to make sure that persons understand that they are required to display their VAT certificate. And let me say this again. If you go into a business at the end of the day and you are charging VAT, you are required by law to have your VAT certificate displayed. I've said it only as a nice gesture that if you happen to walk into a store and you don't see it, just politely ask them where it is or to see it. However, they're already in a compliance issue if it isn't displayed where you can easily see it. But if you want to be polite now, you can do so. If they cannot display it or it is not shown, then we ask you to humbly call us, email us, walk us. Like they used to say, page me, beat me if you want to reach me at the end of the day. Send us a message so that one of our nice compliance officers can make a visit to them. At the end of the day, if you are, say, a franchise, each of the franchises, we talked about the group VAT at the end of the day, the group filing. Say, for example, Domino's has about 5, 6 different franchises. Each of those different franchises and businesses, even if you're under an umbrella company, each of them are required to have their own VAT certificate, which has a unique VAT number for that particular business. There's no sharing VAT certificates either. So I can't see Domino's East Street South have the same VAT certificate, but Domino's Harbor Bay have the same VAT certificate, but Domino's Cable Beach. Everyone is required to have their own. And this is if you're a franchise or if you have a group of companies underneath one umbrella. Even if they do group filing, they are still required to individually, first of all, have their VAT certificates, and then they can be grouped if that is allowed. Any questions so far before I go? And let me say this again. If you go into a business and they do not have their VAT certificate displayed or cannot show their VAT certificate, you are not required to pay VAT to them at all. You are, however, required to give us a call, 225-7280. That is 225-7280, or email us at taxinquiries@bahamas.gov.bs. We'll be happy to answer your call and your email. This has been a commercial by the Department of Inland Revenue. Okay.
Okay, so I heard what you are asking, I guess, responsible citizens to do. What about, I may have asked this question, but those who don't have a brick and mortar type business, just provide services, but they don't have a actually physical location. And then second question would be, you said to, I think you said to kindly ask them. I don't know how that would come across. But let's say someone who doesn't have a brick and mortar, um, should they have their VAT certificate with them at all times? I'm asking, as this VAT thing is very new to me. Where I live, they don't have VAT. And also I've had some persons who would have charged, but they didn't have a brick and mortar, but they didn't show any VAT certificate.
So I'll answer it in 3 ways. The first question you ask is if you go into establishment and you don't see it, you simply ask like this: "Good day, sir, ma'am. I see that you're charging VAT. Can I see your VAT certificate, please? Because I don't see it displayed." Simple as that. And they have one or two choices. They can show it and put it up where it should be displayed. And if they can't show it, then you don't have to pay them. And if they give you a ruckus, it's not a problem. You can call us and the police because, like I said, it's an illegal action. I'm about to go over right now what's showing on the screen. Brandon, you have it up. The penalty for not displaying your VAT certificate. The second one is an answer to the non-brick and mortar. As long as you have your VAT certificate and you're doing business. If you're doing with a website, you have the option with the website because you have the privacy notices and other things. You can have that displayed on as a part of one of your pages, even as a contact information where persons can actually see it. But if persons require you to have it, you can actually make sure that, like you said, we live in a digital age. Have it digitized where at any point in time it could be reflected because you have a non-brick and mortar business at the end of the day. But one of the things that we do also ask persons is about their locations when it comes to that. So making sure if you have a non-brick and mortar, but the fact remains if you have your home business, of course, everybody's not going to come into your home. You still have the ability to have it displayed if it's on your website or digitally so persons can actually see it. But when you're charging VAT as well, in the receipts that you charge, of course, and we'll talk about the VAT invoices tomorrow, that information will also be in that so persons will know that you're filing for VAT. And don't forget, on our website itself, we both have and we are constantly updating the list of the VAT registrants and we're updating the list of the tin only registrants. So if you ever need to verify that if somebody is actually online, you can check on our site on inlandrevenue.finance.gov.bs. I did not look at the pop-up banner. I'm proud of me. To make sure at the end of the day that the information is listed. And if you're still not sure, then we still encourage you to communicate with us because at the end of the day, you want to make sure that the persons you're doing business with is legit. Unfortunately, ignorance is no excuse when it comes to the law. That is one thing that, and this is why we're doing these sessions so we can try to educate persons about what it is that they have to operate by at the end of the day.
Okay, for VAT purposes, when a company brings in their product, they pay the government 10%. Okay. When they sell the product, like a company like mine, I was never told about the VAT certificate that was supposed to be displayed other than what we had discussed earlier. Since I was never aware of this, like you said, ignorance is no whatever. How are we going to handle that now? Because I never collected VAT, but when I did my filings every quarter, I paid VAT. So therefore, I was double. As far as I'm concerned, I was paying VAT when I brought in my stuff, and then I was paying VAT when I did my filing. Now that I know, I have to now go and apply for the VAT certificate. How are we gonna handle
I
that
would
as
ask
relates
that
to my
question.
company?
I'll give you the same answer I said to you yesterday. Let's
Mhm.
discuss that offline because the question I would ask is how you did your filings without being registered for VAT. Mhm. So is it the possibility that in the process of registering for your business license, you may have actually registered for VAT as well? Because you can, well, that's what I'm saying. You can register for, so you already registered for VAT. Okay, so it's just a matter that, but you were registered. Yeah. So I would say let's discuss that aspect of it offline. I don't think you want to. I think we'll display that one too long. So let's discuss that off here. Don't forget this going on YouTube. Oh hey, I got little cousins inside Singapore right now listening to this, eating some orange chicken. So go ahead.
Okay, my first question is, does inland revenues have inspectors?
Yes.
Okay. Now this is a comment. We have a culture, and I think that that approach is gonna put the approach of asking people where their VAT certificate is and charging them VAT is gonna, I fear that it can put some persons in a difficult position. So my thing is, I get it. Y'all want some, if you see wrong, say what's wrong. But if you guys have inspectors, and this is a comment, not so much a question, I think that it should be their responsibility to find people who are operating without business licenses and VAT and the VAT certificates, because I was out of business just over the weekend, a side vendor. And of course I inquired. And I inquired because I was trying to figure out how you get on this spot. And I know I was trying to get you for a long time. I went, what, what route did you take? Who did you, what ministries did you went to? Now it puts me in a volatile situation asking these people, even if they have a business certificate. I said, "Hi, do you guys have a business license?" Because that would have been my next question. What steps did you take? Oh, what you mean if I have a business license? You know what kind of position you putting in me to say, "Hey, I'm not
So,
paying your VAT unless you give me
so
your VAT receipt."
in answer to your question, the two things. The first thing I said was, if you see something, to report it to who? Us. That was the first thing I said. The second part about it, and I'll put it in context like this. If someone come in your house to rob you, you gonna sit there and just let them rob you. If you catch them in a position whereas they ain't got no weapon, no gun, you could just sit there and say, "Go ahead and rob me."
But this
Because
stays inspector's
no,
job.
no,
So
no.
that's what I'm
Listen, what
saying.
I'm saying as the consumer. As the consumer, you also have a right. Well, not just a right. You actually have a responsibility to also protect your income and your use of your income.
Yes.
If you're going to somebody that is charging you VAT and they are not registered with us, the first responsibility you have is to report it to us. But the second thing you have is to make sure that you're protecting your own income, because then you're willingly allowing yourself and the government to be robbed. But before they get to us, they're robbing you.
Yes.
So you have to take that aspect to understand it isn't just the government's income you're protecting your own. And as a consumer, you have a right to be protected. Now, if you don't feel comfortable addressing the person, then like I said, I gave you three suggestions. The first one is get robbed. The second one is contact us. And the third one is the police.
On the same 225 number.
225-7280, as well as I have given you all my direct number as well.
Okay.
So if you need to send a message, and if I don't answer, that means I doing one of these wonderful trainings with you.
And the persons on the family islands would also call this 225 number.
That number is a toll-free number for everybody throughout the Commonwealth.
Okay.
I'll take this last one, and then I want to discuss what we have.
Yeah, I'm not going to harp on what she's saying, but I understand what she, her comment would have been. Um, did you mention at some point that you have like a anonymous number or something of such, rather than the number you gave? Like, they have, I wouldn't say 911, but do you have any like a hotline? That's the number what you gave us?
That is our regular line. But here's the thing: if you call in, who gonna say you call into? I ain't gonna talk. I
Well,
want
that's
the
in a
person.
perfect world. Come
I
on.
know, but the reality is, even with a hotline, it could be the same way. But
So,
that's the con.
okay, if I
If you do make a report, the
right,
question is, if you make a report, is it anonymous? Yes,
okay.
it is.
So I
That's
would
why we
say the
have.
name of the business and the location. That's it. I
That's
don't
all
have
you
to
need
say.
to provide us, and then one of our compliance officers or inspectors will go out and do just that. They will check to verify if what you're saying is actually legitimate or if it's not legitimate. Because persons, at the end of the day, can also make false claims.
Yeah.
So it isn't as if we're going to just rush into the person's business, tie him down, and then at the end of the day, tell him, give me a VAT certificate or else. It has to be done in a decent way. But the idea is that at the end of the day, we want to make sure that everyone is doing their business in a compliant manner, because again, it's unfair to the consumers and it's unfair to those other business persons that are being compliant, that other persons just running under the radar. So we are doing our best to make sure, keep everyone compliant, and also teach persons how to be compliant if they don't know how to do so. That
Okay.
answers your question.
Well, kinda. One statement to what the lady was saying in terms of you recall someone may have charged you, and when you afterthought they may not have been VAT compliant. So let's say she have a receipt or a few receipts. Would the inland department allow her to either email it, scan it to verify that this person did charge and was in VAT registrant?
So the three options in that instance would be, the first one is your own due diligence. Like I said, we do update the listing online. So you could always go and check to see if the business you're doing with is one of those listed ones. If you don't see it and you're still uncertain, you have the option to contact us, as well as the option to email to us the actual receipt and the business information for us to do the same thing, to have one of our inspectors or one of our compliance officers or even one of our field audit officers to go out and verify to make sure at the end of the day that this business is operating in the manner that it's supposed to. We are not trying to encourage the wild, wild west at the end of the day, whereas we're encouraging consumers to put themselves in a compromising position. That is not the idea. The idea is we are a partnership and a community, because all of us at the end of the day live inside a very small country. We're not even over 500 million, or 500,000, I should say, at the end of the day. And we have to make sure at the end of the day, everyone is operating in a manner that's fair to everyone. Okay, so I just want to discuss this real quick, because see, this also answers the question that you're asking about. If your VAT certificate is not displayed, and see, I noticed the words that I use. I said if you were being nice, because by law, if your certificate is not displayed and you're charging VAT, let me say it again, you can be fined up to $50,000 and imprisonment up to 12 months, or both fine and imprisonment. Stop trying to get yourself locked up, man. This enforcement underscores the importance of visibility, displaying your VAT certificate, and demonstrate compliance and avoid significant penalties. So at the end of the day, the first thing about it is it's not even your job as a consumer to require the business. The business themselves are legally required, once they are registered for VAT, to display their certificate. So like I said, it's you're being nice to ask, because you don't even have to ask. If they charge you VAT and you have a receipt showing it as proof, that's proof enough that you contact us or the police to say this business is charging VAT. They don't have a VAT certificate. We don't lock up people, ma'am. That's enforced by the law. Again, everything that we everything we do is regulated by law. Y'all can get me in trouble. Okay. So let's look at the VAT certificate as well. Not the VAT certificate, the invoices. We discussed this, and we'll do this a little bit more in detail, but just some details to look at. First of all, the VAT invoice heading, the business name and the TIN, the date and invoice number, the description of goods and services, the VAT amount charged, as well as the total amount that includes the VAT. What we want you to also pay attention to at the end of the day is, if you see that you are a VAT registrant, then the person that is giving you this invoice also has to include your name or your business name, as well as your TIN number. Otherwise than that, you would not be able to claim your own VAT inputs. This is why it's important to make sure that the information that you have from you register, the information that when you're actually doing business with other persons, is correct. Because in order for you to claim your inputs when you're doing a VAT, whether you're doing the standard rate or even if you're just doing basically the 6.5 rate, you need to make sure that you have the invoices reflecting the fact that you are the customer with your TIN. In addition to that, because we are now in a position where we also have some businesses that have a 10% and a 5%, you also want to make sure that they are showing that on the invoice and the receipts, to show that the business is reflecting at the end of the day that you have 10% for whatever items and then 5% for whatever items. Any questions about that?
Accessories to the Vogue Limited.
Yes. So the question was asked about the name. So in this instance, the top name would be the name of the actual business. And take this just as a sample because different invoices may be formatted differently, but this is just to reflect some of the information. Tomorrow, when we go through the VAT invoices, I'll probably have some different examples for you to also take a look at to see how the different formats may be. But the information does not change in that regard. So you need to have the name of the company that's doing the business, their TIN, the date. If you're also a VAT registrant and you're doing business with them, your name, the TIN, the invoice number, the description of the goods. When you come down to the bottom, the VAT and the VAT rate that you're being charged, separate from the total amount for the bill, and then the total that shows both the VAT and the rate. So that way, when you have to do your filing and different things, you already have the information that you need to calculate. Because at the end of the day, when you're calculating your 10% or your 5%, it is you can go through the process, depending on who your accountant is, and go through every receipt, or what you're really pulling from it is what the 10% actually is. Because that's exactly what it is at the end of the day that you're going to remit for your outputs and your inputs as a summation and as a total when you do your calculations. We encourage, again, persons to keep proper records. Pardon me. Encourage persons to keep proper sale records. Again, records are asked to be kept at least up to 5 years. It used to be 7 years. And remind persons, because we are in a digital environment, there are a number of electronic ways to do your business, whether it's QuickBooks, Peachtree. I cannot recommend any specific one, but I encourage persons to find an electronic means to do your invoicing and different things for your sake as well as the sake of your customers. The physical receipts, if you keep those, then I encourage you to digitize those, scan those when you're actually done, so that when you have to do your record keeping, whether you are VAT registered or not, those things fade very quickly after a certain period of time. They can get anything can happen, and then you lose your receipts and your records. It's better just to digitize them or just use a system that's easier for you to keep track and being able to send your clients PDFs as well as have those records for yourself. It also makes it easier when you have to do your VAT filing for us. Let's see. Good morning. Oh, the number again is 225-7280. And if they're asking for my desk is 604-8241. I remind persons humbly, I move about a lot, but please don't take it personal. You could. Don't take it personal if Mr. Todd doesn't answer you a day or two. As you can see, I move about a lot between training and other things. 401. We encourage persons also to make sure they do their VAT returns on time and to file whether you fall in the monthly or the quarterly. If you are 5 million or more, you will be on a monthly basis. If you are below the threshold, you can request to do the quarterly basis, but you must file your VAT. I said it yesterday and I'll say it again. If you see that you are in a position that your business is not making any revenue, you still are required to file VAT, even if it is zero, because you have to file and show the fact that at the end of the day, as a registrant, that you are actually filing for VAT. In addition to that, the returns are 21 days unless you fall inside a large taxpayers category, where it's 14 days, and that is by invitation. Now, I want to remind persons again for the filing aspect. Please make sure that if you are doing filing at the end of the day, if you're filing through our portal, your payment will hit automatically. As long as there's no issues with the portal, your payment would hit automatically. If you're filing through one of the banking institutions, please do not file the day that it is actually due, because it is not going to hit us until maybe 2, 3 days later. And then you're going to, at the end of the day, inquire a fine, because the banking institution is not going to send it the same day. It will be 2, 3 days later. So we encourage persons to make sure file previous to the time, not the day of. And if you have to do it the same day, we encourage you to utilize our portal to make the payment easier so that it hits your account right away. Because we cannot apply a payment until we see it hit our account. So let's talk about some fines and some penalties. First of all, an unregistered or non-taxable person collecting VAT. Advertising, quoting VAT in respect of a taxable supply made to another person. They are liable on conviction to a fine not exceeding $50,000 or imprisonment term not exceeding 2 years. This is why I said get the police involved, because it is an illegal activity or a criminal activity to actually be charging somebody VAT and you're not actually registered for VAT. So this isn't just a matter of just saying at the end of the day, oh, no. It's an illegal and criminal activity at the end of the day to be charging VAT, and you're not registered with the Department of Inland Revenue to have your VAT certificate to be registered to charge VAT. The other one is a registrant that fails to state the price of a taxable supply inclusive of VAT. This one is liable on conviction to a fine not exceeding $100,000 or imprisonment for a term not exceeding 12 months. Again, prison hot any time of the year. And depending on the severity, I want you to see that it isn't just a matter of you just getting the fine. It is the option of whether the fine or possibly imprisonment or both. An unregistered taxable that issues a VAT invoice, VAT receipt, tax credit note, or debit note to a person, they're liable on conviction up to exceeding $250,000, imprisonment for term not exceeding 12 months. Both such fine and imprisonment. It's not even get 250,000 away because it ain't ever that serious. Okay. So it is 2:37. We're going to take a quick break, about a 10-minute break. 2:37. So we'll be back about, say, 2:45. About 2:45, 2:47, and then we'll go through the process of the VAT registration and the actual walk. My humble apologies. I thought my sultry voice was getting through. So, as I've gotten the evil eye from my digital media manager on the side of me, the walkthrough is going to do in two parts. The first part is we're going to do some of it, going through some of the slides, just showing it up to a certain point, and then we're going to do the actual demo. Now, for the demo, I'm going to go from the process of when you actually start from the trade name up to when you actually put in with the business license and you register for VAT. We may not put in all of the information, but we will go through it, and then we will do it from the OTAS system for you to actually see how it actually is actually done in the system once you've also registered. So we'll do it from those two ends. Please be patient with me as I am being forced to work two laptops. Thanks, Brandon. Brandon, they can know you. By the time we didn't finish this training, as well as I know. I don't know if that's saying much, but we could try. Okay. So just going a quick run through this. So what is a OTAS? OTAS, of course, is our online tax administration system. It is our official platform where businesses at inlandrevenue.finance.gov.bs can register for VAT or other tax types. They can file their returns, make payments, manage and update their account information, and communicate with the VAT department securely. We encourage persons to utilize the site and to utilize the portal at the end of the day to make sure that they are actually communicating with us at the end of the day. So before you begin again, just a quick reminder of the documents that you need. Of course, is a valid ID, a proof business license, proof of address, your financial projections, your banking details, and accurate industry code, meaning to make sure you know what type of business that you're actually going to register. So again, there are two ways that you can register online. One is during the process when you're actually putting in for the business license for the first time. And the second one is when you've actually already in business and you go to our OTS system. And you can access it through both the inlandrevenue.finance.gov.bs site as well as our vat.revenue.gov.bs site. So I'm going to try my luck, Brandon. Try my luck. Applying for business licenses. See if she's going to work with me today. Hmm. Right.
Today, you will learn how to apply for a business license through the Department of Inland Revenue's online tax administration system. Start by visiting vat.revenue.gov.bs. Once on the home page, click Create Account. Complete the form, accept the terms and conditions, and then submit your registration. Next, log into your email to activate your account. Now, using the username and password you created, click Login. Then select Start Registration. Ensure that you have your personal NIB and NIB business registration information ready. Next, select Register a Person. Click Start. Then select Sole Trader. Then click Continue. Continue the eligibility form. Select Continue Registration and Continue Application. Now, complete form details, then click Save and Continue. Finally, upload all of the supporting documents. Click Save and Continue. Now read and agree to the declaration, and then click Submit Request. For more information, visit our website at inlandrevenue.finance.gov.bs.
So, my humble apologies. It seems every time we go to run these videos, everything is be smooth until then, but I rebuke that devil. So, we have one more video for you, and this one is going to run the way it's supposed to.
The Department of Inland Revenue is pleased to announce the release of the new online tax administration site. Do you need help accessing your account in the new online tax administration portal? Well, we've got you covered. Your OTAS accounts with tax information has been successfully migrated onto the new system. Old accounts without active business licenses or VAT registrations have not been migrated and are required to create a new account. Activation links have been sent via email for all migrated accounts. Click this link to begin the activation process. Then, on the activation page, fill in your OTAS username and email and click Verify. For usernames consisting of special characters, such as a dash or underscore, you must now enter your username without it. For example, if your username is John_Doe at exclamation, your username would now simply be John Doe. After verifying your username and email, you will now have to set up a new password. Once your password has been reset, you can log into vat.revenue.gov.bs. To access more videos like this, visit our website, YouTube channel, or social media pages.
Okay. All right. So let's get to it. So, of course, as I said, you can start at inland revenue. .finance.gov.bs, start the process, and there you'll be able to click or log on or register. If you've already registered, then you just log on. But if you're going through the process for the first time, then you would actually click register, which will enable you to come to this site. Now, here you can access this from both ways. Inlandrevenue.gov, inlandrevenue.finance.gov.bs, as well as the vat.revenue.gov.bs sites. Both will bring you here where you can start the process, start a new account, whereas you click an account and it allows you to start the process. Once you've actually said create account, it'll bring you here, which allows you to put in your full name, your email address, your phone number, and to create a secure password. And it will send you an email, and we're working towards an SMS to let you know that your account is actually active. In addition to that, you will be asked some security questions. You'll have to select read and agree, and then you hit submit. I encourage persons before you submit, again, check twice, check thrice. Make sure the information that you are inputting is correct. The error that sometimes I find that clients may actually have is they are putting in an email that has the incorrect number or something, or they put in a password that they forget. And when they go to sign in or to create an account because they thought it didn't work, the system tells them there's already an account with that name. So we encourage you to please be careful as you're putting in your information to make sure that it is correct. If you see in the process that you're actually registering and you don't see an email come to you, then we encourage you to also communicate with us. Once you've actually put in and you've hit submit, then it will bring you to this page that shows you the user account registration process has already started, and it will show you your email. In this instance for us, it's the Department of Inland Revenue at gmail.com. In your email itself, what you will see is actually this screenshot that says to activate your user account, and then you confirm the email address in the account. Or you can use the URL link, copy that, and it will also bring you to the same place. Once you've actually activated, it'll bring you back to this screen. It'll actually say that your account has been activated, and you can now actually log into your account and start the process. Start either for a business license or one of the other tax. Any questions about this part? So clear as crystal, clear as mud, clear as crystal mud. Any questions online before we move on? No? Okay. All right. So just a reminder, and like I said, Brandon working me hard. I'm just going to click through these. These were some of the things we discussed just now. And these will be also inside your notes when we send step by step. Right. So let's get to the fun part, whereas I have to work between two different computers. Thanks, Brian. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the process. First of all, from when we actually have to put in for a business license for the first. Got this up? Hmm? Mhm. Yeah, I'm on the website. That's what. Oh, it's not. Right. Okay. What about now? Okay. So work with me. I gotta be between two laptops at the same time. All right. So the first thing is when you are applying for business for the first. All right, Brandon. I gotta take this. Okay. Now I gotta do it like this. All right. So the first thing is when you are applying for a business license for the first time, you would go to business license and then click on applying for the first time. It would bring you to this screen that will show you the process and the steps. One of the first things that you have to actually do is you have to start with your trade name. So selecting your trade name, then you will come here. Now, let me not skip past one. One enables you, depending on the type of business that you actually have, to see the documentation that you actually need for the business. You don't see on what? Okay. Out. What do you, okay. Hold on. All right. Sorry about that. So, just for those persons that are actually streaming in with us, real quick, I just want to click through this one more time for those persons because I just went over it with the persons in the room for the trade name. So, the first step, of course, is applying for your trade name. And then you would go for your individual or partnership. If you have a registered company already, which means you've already registered through the general office, then you wouldn't go through this aspect. Here you put in your name, if it's an individual, or your partner's name, your emails. If this is your second business or business that's going under already an existing TIN, of course, then you would put the existing TIN and you would choose 3 trade names. If at any point you see that you're rejected, it would simply mean at the end of the day that somebody else already has that trade name. And then, of course, you would enter your information, your address information, and you would upload your passport. If you don't have a passport, then the other accepted documents would be your voter's card and your birth certificate. You would require both in that instance. Okay. So I just want to show this real quick. Thank you for the persons inside the room being patient. You know, we've been through this the last couple of days, and like I say, we're going to get through this helter-skelter. For sec 1, I just want to click on this for those persons online to actually be able to see. So when you go to step 1, what it enables you to see is depending on the type of business that you're actually doing, the governing agencies and regulators, because I always have to remind persons, even though the process starts with us with the trade name, we are not a regulator, we are just a facilitator. We just operate along with the regulators to make sure that you're able to get your business license. So in this instance, you will able to see whatever it is, type of business you're looking for, and who it is that you have to get your permits from. Okay. So once we finish with our trade name, then we come down here to do the consolidated form. So we come down underneath step 3, we click on the consolidated form, choose your island of residence. Now let me see if this can shame me. Yes, it is. So, and that's why I actually used it to intentionally do it. So if you are using Google Chrome, there is the option that sometimes it may not actually show up. And this may be because you either need to clear your cache, my apologies, at the end of the day, so that you're able to actually then see what's going on. So let's see, Brandon. And if one browser does not work, we encourage you to try to utilize some of the other browsers at the end of the day. All right, Brad. Because this has happened not with Safari, but it definitely happened with Google. All right, so I'm going to step out of this one for a quick sec. Let's go to Safari here. Brandon, I'm going to try Edge again. All right. So this is it on the Safari side. Let's try and see if this there one is going to work for me. And these are the little things that I'm making sure we go through because we understand as a client, sometimes these are the frustrations that you actually are dealing with as well for something that may be straightforward and it may just be small technical things. And we want you to be able to go through the process as easy as possible. Look at me clicking and selecting the wrong thing. Okay, there we go. So once you have already applied for your trade name and gotten your trade name, then the next step would be actually to take your trade name certificate, go to the Department of National Insurance, where you would actually get your blue certificate for your business. Once you've gotten that, then you can come back here and you can upload your documents here in the consolidated form. Like I said, depending on the type of business that you're actually doing, you would have to fill out this information. And if you are applying for a, say, new business with a trade name or even an existing business, this enables you to actually select that and put that information in. And then you put in the rest of your information. And what will happen is the departments that you need the verification from will send that information to your email. This is why we encourage you to make sure you have the correct email information at the same time. I want you to also note and notice it asks also for a real property tax assessment number. If you are a homeowner and you have taxes owing on your real property tax, you will not get a business license from us. You can go through the process, but your business application will be rejected. You have to make sure all of your taxes and all of the regards are actually up to date. If you don't own a home, then in this instance, what you would put in this field is just all zeros at the end of the day. And please understand, don't put all zeros at the end of the day to try to duck us to say you don't want to check the assessment because you still got to put your NIB number in, which is still connected to your account, and we can still look it up. So please be honest. Make it easy on yourself. Is that a question? Miss Hunt? Is this one off record to come back to or hold on?
So once you have already gotten your business name
Mm-hmm,
and you're done registered with national insurance,
mm-hmm.
you come directly to this form here.
You come back to the Department of
Because
Inland
that is
Revenue's
where,
website.
okay, that's where I think I was getting blocked because every time I go to apply, I go to the beginning and start again.
No.
And it kept locking me out and saying this business has a name.
So that's why when you go back, and we'll go back to it, is the different steps to help you at the end of the day. So at this point, you're actually on step 3 going for step 4. And right before I come out of it, I want you to see if you have a partnership, you'll have to put both of your partners' names, and then you can upload all of your documentation down here. Now, in answer to your question, let's go back a sec. As you see, this is step 3. So you wouldn't want to go back up, and that's why I'm going through this. Just give me one sec. Be patient with me. I'm going through 2 sites at the same time. Okay. So as you see, you are actually at step 3. So you wouldn't start back at the beginning. You would come down here to the consolidated form, and this is where you would actually put in that information when you've gotten your trade name and when you've gotten your NIB certificate, business certificate from the national insurance, and then any other documentations. And some of the other departments may ask for other things to be uploaded, but those would be the main things along with your passport and anything else just to verify. This is why we encourage persons when they're starting their business to have those documents already available.
Okay, the second part is if you have a home-based
Mhm.
business and you get to step 3, where I have to go now, would that, I mean, by filling out this form, would those various departments that have to do a home inspections or whatever they have to do, would this go directly to them or do I go
This
directly to them?
consolidated form goes to, as we look at it, it goes to physical planning, Ministry of Works, and environmental health. And then there's another form that if you need to do with the Bahamas, Royal Bahamas Police Force, that's there as well. But the national insurance form, we have the form online, but it's not directly connected. So with that, unfortunately, you still would have to download that, fill that, and take it into that. Okay? Mhm.
I've noticed that I don't want to ask a question. I just want to say something. When it comes to the consolidated application, because I put these in pretty frequent, I've noticed that physical planning would return your approval, but with environmental health and Ministry of Work, you normally would have to go in to let them know or give them a call because it doesn't come back immediately. So literally, it probably you'll maybe get it back in about 2 or 3 months.
Now, I will say that is unfortunately in this instance, this
Might
is
not
why.
be on your
No,
control.
no, not just that. Like I said, as us being actually the facilitator, that's actually on their end.
Yeah.
So once they receive the information, now if it's in an instance they didn't get it from us, then we would then encourage you to actually then put it in
To
again
follow
so
up.
that they receive it and do a follow up. But usually they would be the one that would go through at the time. Sometimes they can go through quickly, sometimes it takes longer depending on their load. I don't want to throw nobody under the bus because I don't know what their workload is compared to ours, right? Okay. So, and I'm going through this step by step because once we've done all of this, then the other part of it is for us to go and say, now you've gotten your business license in hand, or I should say, you've gotten some of the documentation you need in hand to start the process to register for your business license. So, just like as we did with the slides, you would come here, put in your name, your date of birth, your telephone, your email. I humbly apologize. So, again, this is vat.revenue.gov.bs because once you click register, it automatically brings you to this site. This is why in the slides I showed this because basically this would bring you here where you would actually come to create an account. So this is vat.revenue.gov.bs. Once it brings you here, of course, you would put in your name, your date of birth, your phone number, your email, your username, your password, your security questions, and then basically read, agree, and submit. And as I showed inside the slides, it would send to your email for you to actually confirm your email and show at the end of the day that your email has already been done. So we've put in all this information. We've done this part of it. We've gotten our email confirmation. Now we move to the next step where we actually go through the account and start the process for our business license. Okay, so give me one sec. Please don't try to copy my sign in because it's only temporary. And as soon as I finish, I delete this account. Let me just throw that out there. Hmm? Yeah, I know. That's what I saying. What I said. Please don't try to. Hey, don't try to copy at the end of the day what I doing, and then the next thing you know, when you try to do it, hey, you find yourself in a position whereas what happened, they can't block you. Okay. Okay. So once we've gotten to this point, then you can start the process. It asks you to register a new taxpayer. And so you click on register new taxpayer. Then you go to start. And a lot of this was some of the same things the video was showing. So we're going through the same steps that the video was showing as well. Once you've read the disclaimer and make sure that you are someone authorized to do, then you click I have read and agree. Confirm and continue. Now, if you are a partnership or a company or limited company, you would choose register a business or organization. If you are an individual or a sole proprietor, then you would choose register a person. In this instance, we'll just click register a person. What this will allow you to do and remind you is all of your documents that you actually need to make sure you have your personal NIB, your business NIB, and able to check your eligibility. Then you click on Start. And here, your source of income, in this instance, would be sole trader. And then continue. Now, this is where I really need you to pay attention. Because as we go through these questions, this is what affects you, not just registering for VAT, but also other things as well. The first question is, are you a citizen or resident of the Bahamas? Well, yes, if you are in this instance. Do you intend to carry out business in or from within the Bahamas? Yes. Now, when you click yes in this instance, this will actually do you for an annual business license. If you were doing an occasional business license, you would actually, in this instance, say actually no, because it would actually allow you to do an occasional business license instead of an extended. Are you covered by the Hawksbill Creek Agreement? Unless you are in Grand Bahama, your answer to this would be no. And this is where our presentation comes from for VAT. If you are registering for VAT the same time that you're doing for your business license, in this instance, you would click yes. Because then as you finish this process and you go through the process, then what you would actually do is complete the process for your business license renewal. Well, not renewal, your business license first time and your VAT. So I encourage persons as you're going through the process, please take your time. If you are not looking to register for VAT at this stage, click no. Because there are times persons click yes without realizing it. And then when the following year comes, they have a problem renewing their business license because they don't just have a business license charge, they also have a VAT filing charge. And if they miss their filing date, they have a charge for VAT filing because they, unbeknownst, when they registered both for their business license and they also registered for VAT. So this is why I'm going through the process from both sides, because I need you to understand as you're going through that there's more than one way to register and to be aware of how you can actually register for VAT during the business license process. So I'll stop right here at this point because everything else beyond this is just entering in basically additional KYC information, your name, your address, and those other things. Okay. And we went through some of those things already on the other side. So I'm just going to cancel this request here. Again, anybody tries to take my password and username, that could be canceled before the day is out. So cuckoo cuckoo on you. All right. So all right. Okay. So we are at this process where basically we have already registered. Our account has already been created in our OTS. Now we want to register a new taxpayer. So we come right here where it says services, click on registered new tax type. And we hit start. And as you can see, it already asks us about value added tax. So in this instance, you want to click value added tax, continue, continue. When will your registration begin? I can say, you know what, let's look at next month. I can make that 5 million between now and then. So I could put next month. And this is why we encourage persons, if you look like you're going to hit the threshold, we encourage you to register before that point in time. What is your total value of taxable supplies? I'm going to say $100,001. You ain't gonna come for me. $100,001. Do you exceed your taxable supplies next? Yet, yes. Are you a commercial importer? I would say yes. If you hit no and you are actually importing, you may not be able to actually claim inputs. This is whether you're bringing in stuff as somebody who's importing, but I would also still make sure that at the end of the day for you, if you're importing things for your business, to make sure to, yes. Are you an exporter of taxable supplies? I would hit yes, because you want to be able to do business on an international level. What is your percentage of exportable supplies? Let's say 50%. Do you supply exempt goods and services? I would still say yes. My percentage is 50. What is your percentage of zero rated goods? Let's say 10%. And this will vary depending on your type of business. So let me just throw that inside there for you to also know that. If you are a business that only deals in zero exempted stuff, then you most likely will not be able to register for VAT. Are you covered by the group? I would say no. Provide details. Let's say QuickBooks. If you use Excel or something else, you just want to make sure the information is there. What is your port license? I won't touch that because I don't operate under the port. Are you a financial service provider? The answer is no. And this is where you need to make sure you're paying attention when you're putting these in, because you don't want to select the wrong thing. Select the type of accrual basis. Again, any business that is 1 million and over automatically has to do invoice. If you are below, you have the option of doing a cash basis, and whatever you select, that does not change. You can probably go through an invoice, but you cannot change backwards. So let's hit save. Save. As you see, I already have this tax type. Save and continue. Save and continue. Here you would upload your required documents. Let's see what we could find. I use this burner boy letter. Don't ask no questions. No tell. Bad request. All right, let's put something else. God know why. Give me a flyer. Give me a flyer. All right, I can use my garbage deliverance thumbnail. There's also a size limitation if I remember correctly. But it has to be a PDF, Brandon. All right, let's try see if it's a PDF. Okay. Well, it just don't want me to go through. It just don't want me to be great, Brandon. All right, let's find something from here. Okay. Well, that went through, you see. Okay. Let's see, save and continue. All right. Okay. So value added tax, all of your documents would show that you uploaded. Again, I would tell you check and confirm your information. I have read and agreed to the declaration, and then you hit your submit your request. Your request has been received. Now let's try this again for the persons in the room with me, because I got rejected because the document was not received. So let's try this again. Ah, that's funny. Okay. All right. But up to that point, it's basically the same thing. What you would actually see at the end of the day is your request has been received. and the reference number CHG19. Okay, Brandon, I'm going to swap over so they can just see what's on the screen. We're finished with that because we're going to go back to the slides.
Can I ask a quick question? I saw you may have been experiencing some issues with uploading a document. Let's say if you have several files to upload, should that person merge the files to upload?
I would still be careful of that because there's also, I think, also a size limit. I think it's about 10 megabytes per document. So you want to make sure that your individual or even your collective documents don't exceed that, because then it may still reject it. But what I just wanted to show you was basically once you are ready, I trying to figure what kind of spread. What? Yeah. Once you basically have already completed, then it would show you this screen here saying that your things have been received, and then you can click on finish. The other thing I wanted to point out for those persons online as well as in the room, it gives you a reference number. And that reference number is what you use to communicate with us about any quest, any queries, or stuff that you have with it. All right, I am now disconnecting from this laptop because I don't know what's spirit going on with this laptop. Laptop changing itself, nobody touching it. Jesus, take the. Okay, so just these last set of stuff. So after your submission, definitely you want to monitor your email and OTS and check for your certificate, print and display it at your business location to start issuing your certificate. So just a couple of reminders real quick. First of all, again, we encourage persons to please make sure use the website because it has all of the legal information that you may need on it. If you're making payments, make sure you have the right bank account and the wiring information. Monitor the portal for communications with us. And then our key takeaways from this model: know who must register, understand the types of registration, use our OTA system, make sure you have the right documents, avoid common mistakes, and post your lovely VAT certificate when you're done. And for our upcoming module, we'll be doing understanding VAT invoices. What is an invoice? The required components, common errors to avoid, do some real examples, and your impact on filing. So we just want to say thank you for those that have participated with this module. If there are any closing questions, we do humbly apologize for taking you over the time, but like I said, for most of the modules, it's going to be anywhere from an hour to 2.5, depending on how in-depth it is. And with this demo, we wanted to make sure go through step by step so you can see both from the document, but also online, how the process all works together. Any questions online? No? All right. So let's close out the same way we opened. Father, I thank you for your grace and mercy. I thank you for those persons that have shared as a part of this training. I ask you, O God, to cover them, guide them, and continue to bless them by your grace. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Have a blessed and a wonderful day.